Welcome to the Biz Builder Spotlight Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Sherman. Today, we're honored to have Ron Gerber, CEO and founder of Angelbeat, an organizer of hybrid live events and webinars on top IT issues, featuring companies like AWS, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, and other industry leaders. Welcome to the show, Ron.
It's good to be here, Jonathan. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I've been looking forward to hearing more about your information technology events business. So this is going to be a laid-back conversation, just a chance for us to explore what you're working on, the challenges you're facing, maybe even brainstorm a few ideas together. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
Let me give you a little background. What we do at Angelbeat is organize a large number of both standalone webinars and hybrid live events. Everything needs to be hybrid these days. And we bring together experts. What differentiates our content is the ability to hear technical information from AWS, Microsoft, and Google in the same form. And that's, as you look at a competitive landscape for information, that's one of the distinguishing factors that's enabled Angelbeat to succeed over the past 20 years. Now, as you can imagine, in this technology landscape, it's AI everything. And just one key takeaway for everyone out there listening to your widely subscribed podcast is FOMO. My kids talk about FOMO all the time, where they have to go to this party or catch up on these things. And we've seen some interesting dynamics going on amongst our attendees, who are senior IT executives responsible for business, technology, strategy at medium to large organizations. As all the hype started around ChatGPT a year and a half, 2 years ago, so many people then adopted individual consumer plans that they readily used for corporate applications. Look great, lots of positive information. And then the corporations started going full speed ahead and looking at these things. But there are two things that have happened or that are relevant in today's day and age that I think might be of interest. The first thing is the whole DeepSeek upheaval, where it now seems possible to get some world-class results at significantly lower cost, meaning significantly lower computational resources required to achieve AI activities. Many organizations are looking at spending significant amounts of money. The other side of the coin is there's a reason why Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Google are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in building these solutions, is that they need all the end user organizations who come to Angelbeat to spend billions of dollars each to justify this investment. So it's an interesting going on. So the DeepSeek scenario, where it became possible to do so much with so less, upended people's thinking and forced them to take a step back and say, do we really need to do this? The second thing that I think is relevant that ties in with this whole nature of, well, we have to go fast, but maybe we went too fast, is when you look at the world of AI and try and contrast that, let's say, with the world of PCs. So in the world of PCs, everything is pretty much the same. There are obviously differences between or among a Dell, an HP, an Acer, a Microsoft Surface device, but they're all pretty similar in the sense that they're all based on an x86 architecture. And if your company suddenly switched 10,000 Dell laptops for Surfaces, they'd pretty much work almost identical. There's obviously some nuances between them, but a high degree of compatibility, high degree of flexibility in changing vendors. The challenge in the world of AI is that it's much more like PC versus Mac, in the sense that they are very distinct systems with very little overlap. And so the other reason why organizations are rethinking their ready, fire, aim kind of approach is that if they go, let's say, full speed on using, I don't know, Meta Llama, there's so many different options out there. And it becomes this walled garden approach where if you go too far down and get your employees trained on this, get your data trained on this particular model, start using a specific LLM, it's a little bit hard to switch and evaluate and go to a different platform. So those are the two key takeaways is we encourage people to go fast with their eyes wide open. And that's a tricky balance when every day you hear about this new innovation, this new AI. But right now, it's still an evaluation standpoint. And what we're seeing a lot of organizations do is look at holding multiple pathways, maybe spending a little bit more doing proof of concept across multiple platforms, multiple large language models, different strategies, different hyperscalers, and being a little bit more cautious and being fully informed. It's almost like in the world of databases or CRM or ERP software. It's a big deal. Do you stick with Oracle? Do you maybe move to SAP? Or do you move to Microsoft Dynamics? These are huge upheavals. And once you run on Oracle, it's really hard to switch. Once your company is running on Oracle databases, very hard to switch. And I think, we're going to see something like that in the future. So that's really my key takeaway is to go fast. But right now, we really encourage people to go on parallel paths before going full speed all in, and hedge your bets a little bit because everything's changing too fast. And if you look at it, I'm sure all the hyperscalers are all offering special credits. Oh, use our system. It's not that expensive. Try it out, do proof of concepts for 3 or 4 months. That Jeff Bezos didn't get a 500-foot yacht by giving things away for free. AWS is the main profit generator there. Google just spent $32 billion on its Wiz acquisition because they can see the upside. Microsoft is spending, I don't know, 50 billion, 70 billion, some ridiculous amounts of money in their data centers. And they still can't build them fast enough. So, they're going to want a return on that investment. And so that's my key takeaway is pursue these parallel paths and go in your eyes wide open. And when you do decide, recognize that the decision-making is very much analogous to picking Oracle versus SAP. And it's really freaking hard to change that decision over the years.
So it's been in the news. Thanks for all that. It's been in the news lately that China has developed some AI application or some AI technology, and it spooked some of the big tech. Is that accurate, or is that just?
Yeah, that's exactly the DeepSeek. That's what they did. A bunch of traders looked at everything going on AI, and necessity is the mother of invention. So when the current administration says you can't get these NVIDIA chipsets, they said, well, fine, we'll figure out a way around that. And,
Right.
That's pretty much what they did. And by all accounts, this is verifiable. And it's not like, what happened like COVID? Did they share the data in the animal markets or what? I mean, this is all technology. In the US, you can use DeepSeek and you can see how it works yourself. Now, again, you get into other related issues, namely what kind of support can you get in the US? Are there other issues in using a Chinese platform from data security, data privacy, data locality? But it's that was a catalyst. And, as I said, the other catalyst is a growing acknowledgement of this walled garden, non-x86 architecture, where people are starting to recognize, okay, once I go down this pathway, it's going to be pretty hard to change gears or change course.
Well, I know one of the big themes right now in the software as a service industry is consolidation where major buyers are looking to have single sources for their technologies. And it seems like, that's going to apply here as well. I mean, you're not going to want to get a whole bunch of different applications from different vendors in the long term. In the short term, you don't really have a choice because they're not integrated. But I think in the long term, what's going to happen is a lot of these applications are going to be single sourced, right?
Yeah, there's a an aspect of that that's very specific around AI that touches on what you're saying. So if you look at the world of automation tools in broad strokes, there are a fair amount of standalone vendor-specific automation tools that organizations frequently deployed separately before like this whole AI revolution. Examples of that would be automatic tools for IVR, interactive voice response. How can you automatically look at incoming web traffic, Twitter traffic, and automatically route that information? How can you tie in a query from a customer and then automatically pull up their data, make recommendations on future upselling? How do you deal with customer onboarding in an automated way? So there are lots of standalone automation tools that work just fine. So to tie back to your comment about vendor consolidation, I think that's absolutely going to be happening, but in a slightly different way, in that organizations may look at one of the major hyperscalers or even one of the big pure AI plays like an OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, and then try and standardize offshoots of that AI platform in different ways. So for instance, or you might have, let's say, a bot that works just fine for routing customer calls, routing website inquiries to the right people, et cetera. And that's a nice standalone app. Instead, you're going to have the IT group working with the line of business executives saying, why can't I just use Microsoft or Amazon or Google as my core engine, and then I'll just have different API, different applications that are all based on that same engine. The benefit to an end user organization is it's just much easier to manage that. I got one platform, I've got some little add-ons that can easily be customized in different ways. And you might find that some of the larger platforms like a ServiceNow will have almost a plugin and work with that kind of solution. But at the same time, you're going to have other solutions that get completely replaced. So I think that's really the key takeaway where AI is going to have a big impact is on other automation software as a service tools, productivity tools that can easily be added on to a generic AI platform and just make the cost and administrative hassle of supporting that business need a lot lower.
So it sounds like you're also providing, not only are you an events company, but you're also providing consulting services.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people, and it comes in two different ways. Sometimes we will do a custom event for organization who's got very specific needs and requirements. So for instance, we've worked with a large financial services firm, and they're very concerned about how they go about training their data. It's a big deal because they deal with a lot of proprietary information. Their software systems tie in with financial transaction networks, SWIFT, and Fiserv, Visa, MasterCard, whatever. And so they were very concerned and needed very granular insights in saying, okay, here's our payment systems, here's the various regulatory groups we have to worry about. It's not just the U.S. comptroller of the currency. We deal in international markets, got more complicated. You've got Britain, the UK separate from EU kind of guidelines. So, that's one example of organizing custom events just to basically get the right people in a room and delivering them the right information to make it easier on their staff. And we help guide the discussion, I do, and facilitate it so people can get the right decisions made based on the right information without a lot of subsequent research. We'll get basically an RFP or a listing of topics that organizations want to cover. We'll make sure they're covered. There's other related traditional consulting, broader AI strategy. Another thing that organizations like to have or help is creating what's called an AI risk management framework. It's basically a comprehensive document that lays out procedures, steps, protocols for approving these initiatives. Most organizations, like the last thing you want to do is create a document like this. All they want to do is do the work. Having said that, their cybersecurity insurance provider needs to see it, the board needs to see it, other departments need to see it, and the bigger you are, the more you need this, so everyone is absolutely working on the same page, using the same assumptions, following the same protocols. Without that kind of documentation, it becomes really, really hard to ensure that nothing falls off the rails. So, that's true.
What percentage of companies have that document in place right now? Is it mostly just the larger companies or the medium-sized companies?
The percentage of companies who say they have it in place is different from the ones who really have a really working document in place. And so you're probably looking at the Fortune 100, they've lots of staff. They have to get something that's reasonably accurate. But literally, once you get down from them, there's documents and there's working papers and working groups, but it may not be precise. And the smaller the company, I think once you get below like 5,000, 10,000 people, the percentage you really have this in place is a lot lower.
What's the risk to society right now with the big race to, be the first to general AI and advanced AI? What kind of risks is society facing?
Well, it might be a little bit above my pay grade, but I'll give you, the takeaway is one of how do you know what content is real versus what content is false? So there are two big things going on right now. There are deep fakes, which is malicious, bad characters creating content, images, videos, documentation that is knowingly false and very hard to determine that it actually is false. Then you have a corollary to that, which are termed hallucinations, which are also bad documents, untrue, but they are not explicitly maliciously created by a bad actor or cyber criminal, though the implication and the outcome is somewhat similar. You've got false information out there. So I think the biggest societal risk is in this digitally centric world, how can you know that you're talking to someone who's actually a person? How do you know the information you're seeing? So I think you're going to see a dramatic uptick in verifying content, even though much of us say, well, it's a pain in the neck. Like every time I have to keep my phone with me all the time because every one of my banks is making sure that I've got MFA, multi-factor authentication. Need a text, need a picture to do it. I think you're going to see a lot more of that and a lot more initiatives to verify content so it's true. And that's especially tricky because it's not like you could say, well, back when we were growing up, there were the big television networks, there were major newspapers, and you could reasonably assume that the information was pretty reasonably accurate. And now, with so much of the content being distributed through social media, which doesn't have the same degree of fact checking, verification, it's much more user driven content. That is probably the biggest societal risk, is not knowing what to believe.
Understood, right? Are companies seeing a good ROI yet on their investment in AI, or is it still too early to tell?
There's probably some low-hanging fruit. Some of it is more qualitative though quantitative. Like they might say, oh, I can read emails, I'll save an hour or two a day, or it takes me much less time to create PowerPoints. Some of the basic white collar tasks are saving time. It's a little trickier to put a dollar savings on these because it's not like they're firing 20% of the staff if it takes the company 20% less hours to read emails and write reports and analyze information. So I think, there's a growing sense that it's productive. There's also a lot more time, now spent in analyzing what to do. So, those are different sides of the same coin. You get the productivity, but you got to spend a lot more time analyzing what to do to get that productivity. So I think they're getting some returns, and I think everyone's very optimistic. Um, but the real outcome is going to be to really drive this, you're either going to save cost or sell more stuff. And so, a lot of it is more theoretical. Okay, we can sell more stuff because we can understand what our customers are doing. We could react more quickly to them. Sure. And people are seeing some benefits. They can identify things quicker. They can see trends more rapidly. That's all happening. Um, but again, is it driving a 10% sales increase in Coca-Cola and knowing these things? I don't know. They were, all pretty good. I mean, if you look at like a company like Walmart 25 years ago, part of what drove Walmart's success was literally maybe even 30 years ago, they hooked up every store around the country via satellites or via telecom networks to have data transmitted on every store sale to their offices in Bentonville, where they had these huge computers cranking out, trying to see what what products were selling. And so instead of getting the data instantly, they're getting it 12, 14 hours later. Really wasn't that big a deal. It's not like they missed out on a big opportunity. So I think, the real challenge is there's lots of revenues, lots of money being spent, lots of feel-good benefits. I am now more productive. I'd use this algorithm to help me write reports, to write emails, to sort through my inbox. So there's lots of time savings. The real big upside is going to have to come when you're going to either not hire people or fire people on a labor standpoint. I mean, I don't think that's happening right now. I would say, if I talk about a company who's going to, or an industry that's in trouble, it's going to be the lawyers because a lot of what they do is write documents and do all this. Now, having said that, if you look at any one of these big law firms, they don't write documents anymore. They have huge databases of 100,000 contracts that they've written for other companies where they've gone through things and, they change, just do a replace, find company A and replace it with company B, and you've got the same thing. So, I mean, when you're looking at this, there's lots of tools that are already in place, and it's just a little bit unclear if you're really going to see the financial justification for saving money, which is going to come from either selling more stuff or reducing your cost. And you're going to potentially have to reduce cost either with having fewer people or cutting down outside spending for goods. So I think the jury is still out. Everyone thinks it's positive. You try it out, and people are going to spend lots of money to figure this out. But it is not immediately clear if it's a slam dunk no brainer. Though again,
Sure.
what you're going to probably have is, you can look back on two different analogies. You can look back on broadband and dark fiber. So 15 years ago, lots of companies spend lots of money on building dark fiber. And then there was like 2010, the economy crashed, and suddenly there's all this dark fiber, and some of the pure telecom companies went out of business. But 10 years later, all that dark fiber is fully utilizable, and the companies ended up doing just fine. They made money, though there was lots of volatility. And then, if you look, in a similar sense, like, and that's what everyone's betting on. It's like with Amazon, they said 15 years ago, we're going to keep building freaking warehouses, and you have to just trust us that eventually having all these warehouses is going to be a competitive edge, and we're just going to, it's the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. And Jeff Bezos was right. That's why he has a 500-foot yacht, not me. And, and so that's, I think, that's very much the same mindset bet. We'll have to see where, it's interesting that even as Microsoft spends 75 billion on its data centers, they are still spending billions with third-party data centers because they can't get enough chips and they can't build their own stuff faster, and they have to use third parties. I mean, so we shall see.
We shall see. So personally, with all the things you have going on, what are some of the bigger challenges you're facing right now?
Well, like if I look at my small business, we're a small business playing, in a big pond. So we have to deal with things like we do with webinars. Now, sometimes it's tricky in COVID where people don't want to necessarily go to live events. Like they want to go to Taylor Swift concerts, they want to go to basketball games. Tech events, I was fine not going to a tech event all during COVID. So now we're finding people are sending bots to webinars, and then the bots are summarizing what goes on. So if you're asking some of the challenges we face, that's one of them, to your audience of general marketing people. We have another challenge. If you look at our marketing and how things evolve over time, we find that telephone calls now are just basically non-existent. Like a lot of times I would be able to call up CEOs, IT directors, talk to them, what's going on in your city? Can you come to our event? All good stuff. Now, no one picks up the phone. So we've got that. And, said you run a marketing agency. The other big thing that's going on is that people do not respond to emails. So I was working with someone from Microsoft who said, I got to keep his name, can't repeat it. But he said, never send me an email. Like if you want to get a hold of me, just text me or send me a chat on Teams. He said, I never look at emails. And that was very indicative of a broader trend where no one reads emails to the same extent that they did even 3 or 4 years ago.
Interesting.
So, I think, if you look at, challenges that I see, those are some in my business that we know affects other larger businesses when you're doing, digital marketing. You still do it. You have to look at other platforms. We do a lot more through LinkedIn these days because if people are getting messages and communications through LinkedIn, it's a little bit more pre-vetted, pre-approved than simply doing email campaigns, even if they know of us. So, there's always challenges. You've got to keep up to date on what are the new initiatives, develop intriguing content and a compelling experience where people want to continue to come back to Angelbeat so they can, as I always tell them, succeed in their current position and also help their organization thrive.
Well, you're such an established organization. I'm sure, the industry knows about you, and they, why wouldn't they want to come back? They're having success going to the events, networking. The sponsors are getting new business.
Yep. Yeah. And that is true. And yet you asked about what are the challenges I face? Part of the challenge is that there is much more really good content available for on-demand viewing. If you look at, again, in my simple business, it's somewhat analogous to the cable business, where so many people are cutting cable cords because they just want to stream at their leisure. So, and that's why, we're doing a lot more webinars, having a lot more proprietary content, as I mentioned at the beginning. There's still few places where you can get AWS, Microsoft, and Google, and whether or not we're doing a live event or webinar, people still like to be able to ask questions and hear it directly, because it's just not the same if you're watching it. So we're fine. But at the same time, it is absolutely challenging, because people, just like they cut their cable bill in half and just used it for broadband, there's a little bit of that same mindset when there's so much good content available on demand that it makes it tricky in our business. And this forces us to, again, have great speakers, relevant content, and have different content that isn't necessarily available at many other places.
Absolutely. Create an event that's special and different and unique. It's the same in the hospitality industry, right? I mean, hotels now are offering event-based vacations just to attract, be different and attract an audience.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say then that networking is, I mean, don't people see the value in networking and going to these events?
People like going to events. It depends the kind of events they want to go to. And people still enjoy that. And so it just presents unique challenges to ensure that they want to attend live events. That's different from, again, going to a consumer Taylor Swift concert. Our business is totally B2B, which has a different marketing dynamic, and many individuals are much less inclined to go to live events. Like, again, you live in Nashville. Like, even in Nashville, there's more traffic. And like some people will say, my key struggle is, well, if you want to get more people showing up in person, then don't live stream your event. So I made my strategic decision in saying, we in today's post-COVID world, we still want to make sure the content's available for streaming, because people still want to attend. And so it places a different skill to manage live attendees, hybrid attendees, and live on-site speakers, which we know how to do. I know how to do better than most. So I think that's a thing that people still like to network. They still want to engage. But in B2B events, there will be less of an interest, only because so many people, at least in the world of technology, are perfectly fine attending virtually. And oh, by the way, vendors, the good vendors, are perfectly capable of generating lots of net new business, because for the first 2 or 3 years of COVID, IT business boomed with people they never even met.
Very interesting. Is there anything else you'd like to go over before we start wrapping up?
No, we appreciate your time. Encourage everyone. You can just look at Angelbeat. We've got the common hashtag Angelbeat platform on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, as well as angelbeat.com, where you're absolutely welcome to attend one of our webinars, as well as just join an event in your city.
If people want to reach out directly to you, what's the best way of reaching you?
You can go to angelbeat.com. You can email me, rgerber@angelbeat.com. It's pretty easy to get a hold of me, and I'm pretty responsive of responding back to people.
Well, you've been super generous with your time. Is there any way I can return the favor by helping you in some way?
No, you can, I look forward when we can plan an event in the near future in Nashville, meeting you in person, which would be great.
That would be.
Encourage, any of the people in the community, just encourage them. As I said, follow us on angelbeat.com, and nothing off the top of my head right now. I just appreciate you're doing this. And, as I said, if there are organizations looking for a competent marketing agency, you should call Jonathan.
Well, thank you, Ron.
Okay.
And same to you. If people are looking for a competent IT consultant or to get their word out to find new business, they
Yeah.
should go to Angelbeat.
Okay. All right.
Super. Well, it's been a great conversation. I really loved hearing about your expertise in IT, and you certainly are a knowledge fountain when it comes to, you have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the IT industry, and we really appreciate your sharing it here on the show.
That's good. My pleasure. All right. I look forward to it, and be well, Jonathan. I really
Okay,
appreciate
you
it.
too, Ron. Thank you. Bye now.